happy 50th wedding anniversary. Today is June 8th, 2021. We've been married 50 years, almost on the dot. We were married about 6 o'clock in the evening. And so again, this is our way to commemorate our 50th wedding anniversary. And, you know, together we're going to blow out these candles and then have a little kiss. 1, 2, 3. Woo!
And 50 more in the future.
John Randall Harrison, called Randall, was born in 1948 at a hospital in Louisville, Kentucky. His mother had to go there from Hanson, Kentucky for a cesarean delivery. Ani left Randall's dad and they moved to Evansville, Indiana to live with a sister until Ani rented and then purchased a house. With a good job at Swift's, Ani bought a house. Randall, 12 and in the background, loved pole vaulting and excelled at it in grade school. At 13, Ani remarried and they moved to Robinson, Illinois. His sister Susie was born then. John, his preferred name at that time, continued to excel in pole vaulting in junior and senior high. John also participated in band, playing the trumpet and the tuba. John graduated from Robinson High School in 1966, and not once does he remember noticing the cute freshman, Sharon Lee Frost, but he was going to attend Eastern Illinois University on a track scholarship, majoring in engineering, and on a trip back home during the following summer that was all about to change. John completed his first year at EIU, leading the indoor and outdoor track teams in pole vaulting, earning a letter. He had to squeeze in time for academics and taking calculus, physics, and chemistry. As a result, his grades suffered. Sharon Lee Frost was born a twin in 1951 in Robinson, Illinois. She lived in the same house with her parents and siblings, 3, at various times until she left for college. Besides performing well academically in grade school and junior high, Sharon was active at the community pool, spending many summers there as a swimming instructor and assisting with swim meets. As a sophomore, she was homecoming queen. If John had not been at college, he might have finally noticed her. However, it finally happened the following summer. The following summer, Sharon and her friend were playing tennis at Robinson High School. It was claimed that their ball repeatedly ended up on the adjacent court by John. And John, home from college, was playing on that court. He finally noticed her and found out from her friend that she was interested in him, and subsequently asked her out. They meant to attend a dance, but decided to get to know each other better, driving 30 miles to the Lewis and Clark Memorial Park in Vincennes, Indiana. John would take her there 4 years later and ask her to marry him. The rest of the summer, Sharon and John were inseparable. He returned to EIU in the fall, coming home most weekends to see her. In the fall of '69, he completed his pre-engineering program, going to Southern Illinois University next. Sharon returned to her junior year, excelling academically, participating in several clubs and organizations. She then completed her senior year, finishing in the top 10%. John painted her corduroy skirt for her, which was a senior tradition. With artistic talent, he wanted at one time to be an architect. He began his civil engineering program instead at the summer of '69 at SIU. He did not apply for an athletic scholarship and chose to work 20 hours per week. Sharon joined him in the fall, majoring in human nutrition. The Vietnam War was still going on during all of this, and due to having a low draft number, John had to join the Army following graduation and report to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri in February of 1971. Probably due to John's engineering degree, he was not selected to go to Vietnam, but to become a nuclear weapons technician. This required extra time for security clearance, so he purchased his first car to drive to and from Robinson and Sharon. Next, he would go to New Mexico for advanced training. After learning that following advanced training, he would go to Germany. He took Sharon back to Lewis and Clark Memorial to ask for her hand. She had transferred to EIU while he was in basic training. She accepted and they were married on June 8, 1971. Her sister was married just 3 days prior. To save her parents the cost, they had a home wedding and applied the funds to their rings, honeymoon and trip to Albuquerque, New Mexico. John was almost late for the wedding because he was packing the VW with all of their earthly possessions. They left for Albuquerque, New Mexico at 7:30 p.m. They spent their honeymoon at the Holiday Inn in Rolla, Missouri, leaving early the next day. They spent a night in Oklahoma, arriving in Albuquerque the next day. John reported to Kirtland Air Force Base for 3 months advanced training in nuclear weapons and was granted permission to live off base. He and Sharon then went looking for apartments. They found a one-bedroom furnished apartment with an incredible view of the Sandia Mountains from their bedroom window. Sharon tried to find employment but could not due to being a short-timer, meaning she wasn't going to live there long enough. John reported to the Army's Fischbach by Dawn Depot in September. Nuclear warheads were tested and maintained there and sent to artillery bases. It was located in southwest Germany on the French border. This is the first vehicle, used BMW, they owned in front of the first apartment in a German home they rented. Sharon joined John after about a month. Not able to afford a TV, which is in German anyway, they spent a lot of time at the base library, becoming great friends with a Mormon from Utah. Following testing and maintenance of the warheads, John would join a convoy to take them to artillery bases throughout Germany for launching in case of an attack. Countries in Europe are similar in size to the states in the US, so they were able to travel to several countries, and John took Sharon to Paris to celebrate her 21st birthday. They traveled to Austria's salt mines wearing coverings to protect their clothes while sliding down banisters from level to level. They also toured Hitler's facilities and Mozart's house. They went to Switzerland and Holland by car. They floated down the famous Rhine River in Germany, seeing old castles and vineyards galore. Although beautiful and exciting, it was a long and tiring trip. They rented a larger apartment and bought a used VW, which was ironic since they had to leave their new VW in the US. They were able to play tennis at the Army base. Note the security fence around the court. They could hear real cuckoo birds in the woods around them as they played. After nearly 2 years, Sharon returned to SIU, and John worked on obtaining a job to get an early out. 3 months. John went to work for an engineering consulting firm in Carbondale, and initially they lived in student housing. They then house sat for 2 different professors, including a Welsh corgi dog, for a year. Finally, they had enough money to consider building their own house. They bought a Wausau factory-built home and built the concrete foundation themselves, borrowing equipment and tools. The house was delivered in panels and connected together. Plumbing and electrical wiring were then hooked up. Steve, their brother-in-law, was a great help in assisting them in pouring the driveway, garage floor, and sidewalk. Due to John's job, they were able to purchase a larger second vehicle, a Buick, while Sharon continued her education, receiving a master's degree in human nutrition. With Sharon wanting to pursue a PhD and John tiring of his job, they moved to Westville, Ohio, a northeast suburb of Columbus. While Sharon worked on her PhD at Ohio State University, John performed design engineering and utility system management in the suburbs of Columbus. With a year left on her PhD work, Sharon discovered she was pregnant with Jane, and she was born on June 13, 1982. At 2 years of age, due to recurring ear infections, tubes were placed in Jane's ears. Shortly after this, they decided to have another child, and Joel was born September 4, 1984. Jane was an only child for over 2 years, but she quickly became very protective of Joel. Sharon's parents and John's mother were an integral part of Jane and Joel's upbringing. Sharon elected to forego her PhD, and after Jane and Joel were old enough, she decided to teach nutrition at Audubon University in Westerville. With the promotion, John was able to take the family to Sanford headquarters and visit the Atlantic Ocean while there. After 10 enjoyable years in Westerville, John decided to change jobs, and they moved to Tip City, a northern suburb of Dayton, Ohio. John accepted a job as a CEO with a water wastewater company in northern suburb of Dayton, Ohio, managing an old water plant and the building of a new one. He was very involved in the community, receiving the Businessman of the Year award in 1994. Moving to Tip City required an adjustment for Jane and Joel. They seemed to adjust quickly, making friends, participating in cheer, dance, baseball, and soccer, among other things. One of the advantages of John's new position was to attend a company-sponsored conference at Disney World, taking the family with him. The conference was held at the Grand Cypress Hotel. Living north of Dayton, they were not too far from Cedar Point, a popular amusement park, and John took his brother-in-law, nieces, and Jane and Joel for a visit. He and his family also attended a conference in Arizona with his office manager Pam and her son Adam, stopping by the Grand Canyon. In 1993, Avatar was purchased by American Water Company, the largest private company in the U.S. In 1994, American sold the system to the city of Heber Heights, and he was relocated to St. Joseph, Missouri, which is located just across the river from Kansas. He was in charge of construction of a new water plant replacing the old plant adjacent to the river and subject to flooding. They had a new house built in St. Joe. Jane and Joel attended high school, excelling academically and in sports in the prom, and graduating in 2000 and 2002. While they were in school, Sharon went back to work at the Pady Health Center, also Missouri Western University, and Northwest Missouri State. She also did nutritional consulting. Construction of the new water plant in Wellfield began in 1998 and was completed in 2000, built well above the 93 flood level. An open house was held for the public with PowerPoint presentations and tours. $80 million was estimated for the project, but it was completed for $75 million. In 2003, he was offered a job at the Missouri headquarters in St. Louis to purchase wastewater systems. They purchased a new home in the Baldwin suburb. Sharon worked retail jobs and taught nutrition online with Missouri Western University. Due to lack of employment for dietitians in St. Louis, she commuted for 6 months to teach at the SIU School of Medicine in Springfield. She lived there with her sister. John elected to take early retirement and they moved to Hannibal, Missouri for 6 months. He worked for MECO Engineering and she commuted to Blessing Hospital in Quincy, Illinois. He decided to retire and she worked full-time for Aramark Company at Capital Region Hospital in Jefferson City, and they moved there for 2 years. He maintained the household duties and he began to do freelance web store design. While working for MECO, John had learned that Lincoln County was a fast-growing, low-tax area to live in with quick access to St. Louis. They decided to rent a home in Troy before buying. Sharon began working part-time at Lincoln County Hospital as a dietitian, and he continued performing freelance web design. In 2010, they bought a house, their sixth, in Troy. Sharon began working full-time at Mercy and quit in February 2017. Following summer, John was diagnosed with prostate cancer. His prostate was removed with robotic-assisted surgery, and then he received radiation and chemotherapy.
Walking in for my last radiation treatment to SSM Health Cancer Care. You see Dr. Bedwinick. Okay.
Hi, we're gonna get a picture.
There she is.
You don't have your finger in the way, right?
I hope not.
I
hope
Get a
not.
picture by the bell.
So I have to
Here, look, read the
read it?
picture.
Yeah, read it.
ring this bell 3 times well. It's told to clearly say my treatment done. This course is run and I am on my way. So ring it 3 times.
No, I'm not ringing it.
Come on, she was here every day.
Cheese!
Jane graduated from Truman State University and then earned an MS from the University of Maryland. Ironically, she returned to OSU where her mom stopped working on her PhD when Jane was born, earning her PhD in musicology. After traveling abroad and teaching at Michigan State, she decided to teach music to Turkish students. She met Farhan Khalid, a computer scientist engineer from Pakistan, and they were married in 2016 and began a family. A daughter, Yusra, was born in 2017. Using the internet, Farhan was able to work from home and help with childcare. In 2019, Remy, a boy, was born. Due to a small hole in his lung, he was kept in an incubator a few days until it closed on its own. Just as Jane once welcomed home her little brother, Yusra did the same and loved him. Due to the great distance from Turkey to Troy, visits are few but cherished by the grandparents. Joel also graduated from Truman with a degree in economics. He moved to St. Louis with his parents. He worked various retail jobs until he could afford to rent his own apartment. He met and fell in love with Alexis Junger, marrying her in 2019. They were able to buy a house in St. Charles, and Joel obtained a job as a senior engineer for business operations and automation with MasterCard. Alexis continued to work as a senior demand generation specialist with Ricoh in Fenton, Missouri. In November of 21, John's cancer returned, and due to having only one lesion, it was recommended using CyberKnife radiation. As before, Sharon was with him. Using a robot and AI, 167 X-rays go through organs, tissue, and bones, harmlessly merging into a lethal dose to the tumor. John had 5 such treatments over 2 weeks to keep the exposure to the spine at a minimum to reduce the chance for damage. John's cancer will be treated with CyberKnife in the future unless the lesions become too numerous. Then chemotherapy will be used unless some form of immunotherapy is available at that time. Their simple home wedding is testament to how true God-backed love endures. If God allows, they will have many more years together to celebrate with their children and grandchildren. Our story thus far.